Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Good morning / afternoon / evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Ask Rob and Rob. This is episode number 7, and we've got yet another listener question, which we're going to be attempting to answer for everyone's benefit on this week's show.
If you'd like to get on the show by asking your own question, then please do. It's really simple. Just give us a call. If you dial this number, 013 808 00035. Give you that number again. It's 013 808 00035. Of course, it's normal rates. Just leave a recording there and we will answer your question in due course. Or, if you want to do it via the web, go to propertyhub.net/podcast and follow the links.
Somebody who's already done that is Richard from Edinburgh. Let's hear Richard's question now.
Hi, Rob and Rob. It's Richard here from Edinburgh. Big fan of the show. I have a question. I'm in the process of budgeting for 3 to 4 properties, and I wondered how many months' rent you recommend for keeping for void periods. I was just wondering, should I be holding more cash as I have more properties?
So thanks, Richard. Great question. And not a simple one to answer, so I can see why you've contacted us. It really depends. We will give you more than it just depends. But it really does depend on you, the circumstances and so on. But let's delve into this. First of all, let's look at worst case. How long could you potentially be without income? Worst case, if it takes you 9 months to evict a non-paying tenant, and then you have to replace the boiler during that time too, theoretically, that could end up being a real chunk of change. Now, in reality, that is extremely unlikely to happen. So it does come down to your personal comfort levels. If you think, right, okay, I'm going to put enough aside for 6 months void, or I'm going to put enough aside for the boiler, plus a few months void. It's up to you. But remember, boilers tend to last 10 years. So if you've got a brand new property and you've got professional tenants, then you might not put as much aside. But if you've got an old property that's constantly needing repairs and you're in a bit of a dodgy area and your tenant profile isn't the best, then you might need to put a bit more aside. So as I said, it does depend.
So Richard's talking about buying 3 or 4 properties and trying to budget across those 3 or 4. While you would have thought that increases your risk and you need to put more money aside, I'd actually say that it reduces your risk having multiple properties, because when you think about it, you're exceptionally unlikely to have all properties empty at any one time. If you've just got one property, then you could get really unlucky in that one property, have a tenant who isn't paying and lose 100% of your income. Or at any given point during the year, you might have a changeover between tenants and have the property empty for a few weeks. What are the chances, though, of you having 4 properties all empty at exactly the same time? It's very unlikely. Therefore, if you're making a profit on your portfolio as a whole, then the properties that are making money can actually subsidise the losses in the property that isn't currently making money. So you could argue that you have to have less money put aside for 4 properties than you would for 1. Another thing to keep in mind is a few weeks back we had a question about rent guarantee insurance. That could reduce the need you have to keep aside down to, say, a month if tenant demand is really strong in that area, because you don't have to worry about the situation of a tenant not paying because the rent guarantee will kick in. So all you have to think about is that time between tenancies. Now, only you know how long it takes for properties to normally let in your local area, but you're not going to have a situation where your property's empty for a year, because you can always drop the price down if you need to whatever level it takes to get it let. So you can see why it would be nice to have a formula where you go, okay, well, per property, you need to have exactly this amount set aside. And, I'm a geeky type. I'd like to have a rule like that as well. But it's just not possible because there are so many factors at play.
But ultimately, it depends. Using that word again. But there is no hard and fast answer. It is down to you as an individual, your tolerance to risk, the type of properties you go for, the type of tenants you attract. All these things will make a difference to how long you should put aside. If you're cash rich, then you don't really need to put that much aside at all. If you've got it in a company, then you may want to have a working cash fund of a few £1,000 just in case something like that does happen. So it is up to you. But hopefully the advice we've given you today will help.
So I've actually written a blog post about this in the past over on the Property Geek blog, and I'll be linking to that in the show notes for this episode, which you can find along with the show notes for all the other episodes of Ask Rob and Rob at thepropertyhub.net/property advice. Also worth mentioning that if you want to come along and get your questions answered in person, then you can always join us at a Property Hub Summit. We only do 4 of these each year. And when we do, we get you together with us and 15 other investors to not only answer all your questions on the day and help you out with your strategy and answer anything that's on your mind, but also give you that support network going forward. So the majority of people who've come along to summits in the past have ended up forming mastermind groups of some description, either formal or informal, with people that they've met, staying in touch with them. So they've always got someone to keep them motivated and they've always got a sounding board. And that's really, really valuable because questions come up all the time. There'll always be situations where you're not quite sure what to do. You can't just submit it to Ask Rob and ask the weeks that it might take for us to get around to answering it. You need to know it straight away. And that's where your network is really invaluable. The first step to building that network is to book yourself onto a summit. To do that, we've made it really, really easy. All you need to do, pick up your phone, compose a text to 88802 and text the word summit followed by a space and then your email address. So that's summit, SUMMIT, a space and then your email address to 88802. We'll then send you more information so you can check that the summit is right for you and then book your place.
We look forward to seeing you there. And we also look forward to seeing you, sort of, on Thursday with the Property Podcast. And of course, we'll be back next week with another episode of Ask Rob and Rob. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.